So welcome back, everyone, to Pass It On. Pass It On is Winnow's platform for chefs and hospitality leaders from around the world to share real stories, insights, and actions they're taking to tackle food waste. For those of you that follow us at Winnow, you will know that we recently launched a global zero waste recipe competition, inviting chefs all around the world to share their best zero waste recipe. We received over 150 entries, all judged by our zero waste culinary advisor, Wojtek. And today we're joined by one of our top 5 finalists, Dan Catford.
Hello.
He's currently working as a consultancy and development chef. And while not currently a Winnow user, the competition was open to everyone. And your dish really stood out from all the entries. So congratulations on being on the top 5. And yes, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So lots to talk about today. Your dish looks really, really amazing. But first, I wanted to ask about your culinary journey and what first inspired you to become a chef.
My earliest childhood memory was working with my nan when I was 4. She was the chef at the Dorchester Hotel.
Yeah.
And for her birthday, I remember standing on a little stool. She was charring peppers for a Delia Smith recipe, and I just remember all the touch and everything that she taught me. Sort of built my career, really. Set me on the way at the culinary school. I've then worked at several sort of AA Rosette restaurants, Michelin restaurants, and then I came out of restaurants about 9 years ago, where I went into development and worked for a big salad company down in West Sussex, where we developed bag salads, food to go, and coleslaw for food retail and food service outlets around the UK. After that, I went back into contract catering. I was a head chef at the Body Shop, as in the pharmaceutical company, where I worked with trying to bring down the food waste there, which was my first real journey as a chef into reducing food waste. I then became after that, I wanted to work for myself, so I became a consultancy and development chef. So I work everything from hotels to hospitals to schools to working with individual restaurants on their menus, everything from costings, wastage, to menu design and developing recipes and working out the best route of action for them.
Amazing. You've seen every single side of hospitality, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's 25 years of hard graft, but it's nice being able to do it yourself.
Definitely. And I love the story of peeling the peppers.
Yeah,
that's actually quite
it's one of those things
task.
that I say. So I've got a big passion for live fire and barbecue food, and I think it started that journey of just that smell and getting everything. It's just getting dirty, just getting that sort of real earthy feel for food from such an early age. And then progressing that through my career. That's why it's a big passion for my for live fire and barbecue food.
Definitely. I know, like you said, it's kind of getting dirty with the food. Like it's quite a tedious task, but the first time you've had a pepper, it's like, wow.
It's that primal feel.
It does make the.
It's going back to that primal of using everything.
Definitely. And you spoke a bit about like food waste in where you were working in catering and Body Shop.
The thing that opened my eyes to food waste was working at Nature's Way Foods. So my first development role, we would go into the factory and the amount of outer leaves of a romaine lettuce or the cores of a pineapple, the stems from a kale leaf. And we realised that there was a lot you could do with it. So the biggest thing that we found was broccoli stalks. Shredding them down and putting them through a slaw bit mix bag. We sold it. That went into Itsu to start with. That went through an Asian slaw mix, which gave some amazing sort of irony, earthy flavours that you get from broccoli. But just the byproduct of all of the other products that go into supermarkets for just florets. Something as simple as just taking that and shredding it, that we would have a huge machine that would shred carrots for all the other coleslaw, that we've put the broccoli down it and created several products from the byproduct, which shouldn't be called waste really, because it's a fantastic, and that's the way I sort of look at food, is that I don't look at something as waste. I try and use the whole thing.
Yeah.
And if there isn't a use for it, then you find something else, whether it's putting pepper tops into a stock or taking the seeds and replanting them. There's always a use for something.
Definitely. There's always some way you can use every part, vegetable, whatever it is.
100%.
Yeah. And so you're working with supermarket waste?
Yeah, so we're not so much supermarket waste, but at the time we were producing broccoli florets to go into a food-to-go salad for Sainsbury's. And we would, obviously you were led by customer, and they would just want the floret. So we would get in several tons of broccoli a week. Someone would stand there, chop all the florets off of it, and then literally throw the stalk into the bin. And a former colleague of mine went in, and we were just looking at the amount of food waste that was produced by that one product for Sainsbury's. And then we looked into it more, and you suddenly realise that A, you can reduce food waste, B, you can increase costs and revenue just by taking that simple byproduct and putting it into something else.
That's so interesting. I always wondered in the supermarket, like, what happens with the stalk? Because I always see the florets, and I'm like, where is the stalk?
Yeah, normally, previously, it was just being binned and going into landfill. And then we drove. So we started with the broccoli stalks, and then we moved to pineapple cores and kale stalks. So we started with the pineapple cores and turning them into a pineapple jam, which then went into a breakfast yogurt pot for prep. So we made our own pineapple core jam. That's a compote that would sit at the bottom, and then the yogurt on the top in a little breakfast pot. And then take the kale ribs, we used to call them, the middle that you would rip the kale leaf, the outer kale leaf off. We would then them shredded down and turn and pickle them, almost cement them, and make just a little pot of pickles that would go to places like Itsu, and I think we even had it in a little Tesco Asian food to go salad that had some sort of waste kale pickles in there. And then you just keep looking down the line of everything else that then becomes what the sort of food industry determines waste. Which is such a shame, because there is so much to do.
I was thinking, I never actually see that advertised in the shops. Like when I go to Pret, I never see them mention anything.
Yeah, I think it was something that was made about 10 years ago when we first did it. And I think that after they did the trial run, they put it into, I think, about 15 stores. And then it sort of slowly petered out, because obviously it's a weird thing with waste, and I'm sure you've come to it. Yeah, so sometimes the byproducts that you're turning your waste, so we've created the pineapple jam, becomes more popular than what you're actually creating out of it. So the actual pineapple was being turned into pineapple fingers for Morrison's. But we were outselling the pineapple fingers with the pineapple jam. So obviously you cause your own problem by having to just use the cores. So we then took it so Fred took it out, and it's actually just now being used. I think it's being used in sort of school food. But it's still being used. The waste isn't there anymore. And like the kale ribs, they go into pickles for food service. But again, there doesn't seem to be a big enough movement of screaming at food waste in supermarkets, whether something's being used. Because I would guess that from a sort of commercial point of view, it's not food waste if it's being used.
Yeah.
So although you could tell the story
Mm-hmm.
The normal supermarket buyer
They won't
wouldn't really pay
notice.
attention to it,
Yeah.
as opposed to someone that's passionate about food.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a drive to show
I
them.
think there would be more of that
Yeah,
kind of
definitely. 'Cause it tells
marketing
a
about
story.
it. Definitely. Um, but yeah, that's really interesting. And the pineapple core jam, is that how does that affect the flavor? Is it
It tastes exactly the same. You're
the
just cooking
same?
it down. It's just cooking it
Yeah,
down long enough to break down the fibers of the pineapple core. Uh,
really.
and it cooks down really well. It makes a beautiful compote.
So interesting. Yeah, I've heard a lot about the peel that you can make the tepache,
Yeah, yeah,
kombucha kind of stuff, but the core I haven't actually heard about. So I'm
yeah.
gonna have to
Something that you can try.
try. Perfect, thank you. So we've changed location, and we've hopefully resolved all our issues.
Let's hope so this time.
But yes, perfect. So obviously you entered our competition,
Yeah.
a really incredible dish. Are you able to walk me through your zero waste dish and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, of course. As I said, one of my biggest passions is live fire cooking. And one of the biggest trends of this year is hispi cabbage. It's everywhere at the moment. So
Yeah.
I wanted to take something as ordinary as a cabbage and treat it the same level of attention and weight and respect as chefs do for a whole animal or a whole fish. Too often we reduce the ingredients to just their best parts. So
Mm,
classically trained chefs will be told to take the outer leaves and prep that beautiful inner heart of a cabbage, but get rid
yeah.
of the rest.
Mm,
I wanted to show a different way of thinking where fire challenges that. Where so the whole dish is a charred hispi cabbage. I fermented the core and turned that into a puree. So I fermented just a sort of simple salt solution ferment for
mhm,
3 days, just to get that sort of funky, um, acidic fermented notes to the dish. Just blended it with a stock that we blanched the cabbage first. So I took that cabbage water with the fermented cabbage and blended that down. I took the very outer leaves that really do char down, and sort of ground that down into an ash and turn that into a butter. So a cabbage butter. The leaves were turned into stem oil, blended with some wild garlic that we foraged locally. And then I took all the other trim from that was left from the cabbage, and turned it into a smoked trim exo sauce. So we blended that, we mixed that with some Calabrian chili flakes, some cumin seeds, some coriander seeds. We took some of the oil and the butter and put that through it, and a little bit of the sort of the vinegar as such that came off of the fermented core to make a beautiful exo sauce to give it a real sort of zing and lift. Just to show that everything can be used. You don't have to just use that inner heart.
yeah.
And it's not making a point about waste, it's creating something delicious. The zero waste aspect is just a simple result of using the whole ingredient, and respecting it enough to find the value in every part of it. Which is what I try to do with all of my dishes. So whether
Yeah.
that's when I'm working in restaurants, if everything from a burger restaurant where we can utilize the trim off of brisket that goes onto a different plate, turn that into a really nice burger. Taking everything from the salads and making it into like a kimchi that could go onto
Mhm.
a special Korean burger. There's never such thing as waste in my
Yeah, definitely. No, the dish looks incredible. I love how vibrant the oil is, the green oil and the
yeah.
ash butter as well. That's super interesting. I've never heard of the ash butter from
It's just a
the
way.
cabbage.
I think that for a while you would see things on like sort of Great British Menu and
Yeah,
MasterChef that a lot of chefs would do leek powder,
yeah.
because of the sort of calcots with romesco where you burn the leeks and then you take the outside leaves off, and they were again trying to reduce waste. And it was just a sort of play on that, really. It was
Yeah.
taking the ash of different vegetables and creating a
Very
seasoning. Whether that goes then back to a rub that goes onto the meat that you're serving it with, or like with this, or just turning it into a vegetal butter.
I feel like a lot of people when you say you like cabbage think like, why would you like cabbage?
Yeah,
But
it's. I remember. So my sort of thing was was my dad's 60th birthday, and I did the whole menu for him. And one of the sides was a burnt hispi cabbage with feta and chipotle honey, and some pumpkin seeds. And he sort of took me to one side and he said, "I'm your biggest fan. I love you. But why are you burning cabbage for my 60th birthday?" And it wasn't until afterwards that everyone came up and said the best part of the thing that will stick with them is that charred cabbage, because you're getting the natural sweetnesses. When you're smoking something, the natural sweetness comes to the forefront of your taste buds. So adding that smoke and char, you suddenly go from what people automatically think with cabbage of that bitter, irony, sulfury taste, something that's completely different, you transformed. And that's why I think people are starting to really jump on the sort of cabbage bandwagon this year.
Definitely.
Because there is so many different layers of flavour to every different type of cabbage as well.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. Congrats again on being on the top 5. It definitely deserves it. But yes, thank you for walking me through that. What does it mean to you to be placed in the top 5 out of all the 100?
I mean, it's crazy. Like I said, I'm not in what you would class as a traditional restaurant anymore. So I'm traveling around restaurants. So to still get my passion across and be selected in the top 5 of a global competition, it's amazing.
Really deserves to be in a restaurant. This dish.
Yeah. There's variations of it in several restaurants around West Sussex that you can find it, that I've been to, because I try and get it on every menu that I possibly can.
Incredible. Thank you. And then I think you kind of touched on this earlier, but was there a particular moment that made you rethink how food waste is managed?
Yeah, like I said, it was back at Nature's Way Foods. Just seeing the sort of... I've always looked at food waste in kitchens when I've worked at kitchens, but until I saw the other side of it from not just a British perspective, but a global perspective from food service and supermarkets. You don't, as a consumer, you don't see that side until you go into a factory and you see everything being produced and the amount of things that are produced and wasted in a heart of iceberg. Like we said earlier, the cause of pineapple. Everyone wants the best looking thing. I mean, we obviously had the wonky vegetable movement. For me, there's no such thing as a wonky vegetable. You just do something else with it. It don't need to sell that as a wonky vegetable. And again, prior like conversation we already had, you then start selling more wonky veg because you're selling it at a cheaper price, especially in this day and age in the supermarket. So then what happens to all of the other carrots that are the best carrots? That are at a premium price, they start becoming the waste.
No one's going to buy those.
For me, a vegetable is a vegetable. I think we should do away with packaging. Let people pick their own. Just how it used to be. Vegetables, meat, everything. Let it be on a shelf in the fridge. And a butcher, a fishmonger, and a greengrocer is there to serve you. Because that way they'll hugely reduce the waste, because you are buying what's in front of you. You're not going through packets to find the best or the wonkiest. And then there isn't any waste because it's all in the food market.
I hate it, like when you're in the supermarket having to fight through all the plastic and literally everything is wrapped in plastic.
And the wonky carrots are grown in the same field as the carrots that are £2 more expensive than them. It's crazy. It's a crazy world we live in.
Living in a crazy world. We need to go.
We really do. We really, really do. And it's time they're sort of really relooked at. Because we will always generate waste and plastic at the moment, and it's not great for the environment. It's not great for everyone's pocket in this day and age. You're paying more for the packaging than you are for the vegetables that are inside it, and it's something that needs changing.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing. And then moving on to the next section is on ingredients of success. What would you say your ingredients of success are?
My ingredients for success are sort of probably passion, determination, and trusting in yourself. So that's probably my biggest thing for success, is trusting yourself, because without your own trust, there is so many missed opportunities.
Yeah.
For instance, the hispi cabbage. If someone didn't once burn a hispi cabbage just to see what it tasted like, it wouldn't be the popular trend it is now.
True.
There are so many times in my career where I haven't trusted myself, and then you either see somebody else do the same idea as you, and you go, "Why didn't I do that? Why didn't I stick to my gut instinct?"
Uh,
Um, and the best successes that you have as yourself come from inside you.
yeah, definitely.
You can be trained, but at the end of the day, you don't put your own mark on something if it's not your own.
Uh-huh.
So for me, yeah, that trust and self determination to really push is my biggest ingredient for success.
That's definitely a big one. Like, if you don't trust yourself, no one's gonna trust
Someone's
you.
going to trust you. Yeah, exactly.
And why do you think it is that some people don't trust themselves? Like, what's kind of holding them back?
I think a lot of it's on training, and as much as we're trying to get out of the sort of old school kitchen environments, the toxic environments, they are still existing. So I think people don't like to raise their voice if they're brought in a kitchen like that,
Uh,
because they would have it in there. I know I certainly did in one kitchen. You sort of keep your mouth shut and
get on
learn,
with it.
get on with it and get told what to do. If you
Yeah.
question anything and you sort of get shut down and sort of you're a CDP or commie chef, why are you asking, why are you giving me ideas? You need to learn my ideas first.
Yeah.
And again, it's such a shame because there are so many. I would imagine that there is a lot of chefs that were in the same boat as me that keep their mouth shut and haven't got that talent that's been found.
Yeah. So true. It's definitely changing though. Like,
Yeah, it's massively changing from sort of back when I
yeah.
was training sort of 25 years ago, 20 years ago.
Mhm.
But it's a lot more. I mean, the whole industry is different from when I was working 17 hours a day, 6 days a week,
Yeah.
uh, and see the kitchen more than you see your own family.
Yeah.
It's a different world now, and for the better.
Yeah. It's true.
Um, but yeah, it is a different world now.
Hmm. Would you ever go back to restaurants, do you think, in
I
the
think the only thing I would do now is if I had the money, I'd go and open my own place.
really?
Uh,
Yeah.
if I had investment behind me, or if I had my own money, love to open a small play restaurant down on the Sussex coast.
I'd love to visit.
Yeah, That's
Hopefully.
just for the hispi cabbage.
Whole menu, hispi cabbage.
Yeah, there you go. There's the name for it, hispi.
Yes. Um, perfect. Thank you. And then, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received, and who shared it with you?
Again, going through that is believe in yourself. And that was from an executive chef that I worked with, Martin Haddon,
Mhm.
he had Michelin stars himself. He was a winner of the Rouge Scholarship at 19. And then the year after, they upped the age to be able to enter to 21. So he will always be the youngest person to ever win the Rouge Scholarship.
Wow.
And he
What
was my
title?
mentor. And I learned a lot from him. And he said, just believe in yourself.
Yeah.
If you've got an idea, share it. Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it
Mhm.
does, it could be your key to success, like we've just said. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, that always stood by me is believe in yourself. It's what I say to my kids. And I wouldn't still be doing what I'm doing now 20 years later if I didn't take that bit of advice then.
Funny. Yeah, they're kind of your best piece of advice is basically your ingredients of success,
Yeah.
as you said.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And then, what challenges have you faced in your journey, and how did you overcome them?
Oh, there's that was 25 years of chefing. There's been lots. Probably again going back to that sort of toxic environment is just
Mm,
uh, keeping my head down, and just believing in myself
yeah.
and proving yourself that you are valid of working in that kitchen. That plate is valid of going on the menu. And it was just keeping my head down. Other things, one of the biggest things, and I'm sure that we've all faced it, was COVID.
Hmm.
The industry as a whole changed after COVID and Brexit.
Yeah.
And as chefs, it is a massive, especially as a consultancy and development chef, it's a massive stumbling block,
Hmm.
and still is 7 years later after COVID that we are still trying to get that industry rebuilt. Everything from
Yeah.
tax,
That's
getting
it.
people to go out and spend their money. It was a huge challenge. I was the head chef at the Body Shop during COVID, and prior to COVID, we were catering for 450 people a day. Big operation, 9 chefs in the kitchen, 3 in the diner.
Yeah.
After COVID, we would be lucky on a busy day to cater for 60 people because everyone was working from home. So
Yeah.
contract catering took a massive hit
I
because
can
of
imagine.
so you're working from home culture.
Yeah.
So we managed to sort of cling on for another year, and then it was just not viable financially, wasting. Um, it just went. It just had to go. So yeah, COVID was probably after the sort of toxic environment. COVID and Brexit was, as a chef, was the biggest challenge.
Uh-huh.
But we overcome it. We just have to work not harder, but more clever. Uh,
Smarter, yeah.
you have to think
Definitely,
about it more.
definitely food waste must come into it
Yeah,
more. Like,
massively,
yeah.
because the cost of ingredients and the cost of um, energy, you
Mm.
now need to reevaluate your menu. So if you can use that whole product as opposed to just using that one piece, also your yield is better.
Yeah.
If you can use the whole thing, obviously you're using 100%. Um, so your costs then come down.
Uh-huh.
The more you waste, the more you're spending. And that's why a lot of places are closing down because they can't
Yeah.
financially keep it going anymore. So you have to, like I said, you have to think on your feet uh,
Um,
because costs are just spiraling out of control. What
yeah,
we were used to
everywhere.
paying for £2 a kilo is now £12 a kilo. It's crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. But it's exciting at the same time because you're now having to think outside the box to use the whole product instead of wasting,
Yeah.
which creates more exciting opportunities. And like I said, it sort of helps the revenue as well.
Definitely. I think when you're constrained like that as well, that's kind of what boosts creativity as well.
Yeah, yeah, massively. Like I said, with this cabbage dish, it was working the same way as you would use up nose to sail. Uh,
Um,
it's thinking outside the box of why can't I create, instead of creating a dish and using a different herb for that green oil, the cabbage's outside leaves are the greenest part of it.
true.
Let's take those and make an oil out of those.
Yeah.
See what it tastes like, and it gave a real earthy,
Uh,
sweet flavour, and it was perfect for the dish. And
mm,
that's where I love development so much, is that different way of thinking of
yeah.
how you can take something as simple as a cabbage and create a whole I don't know what you would call it, with root to leaf.
Root to stem. Wait, is
Yeah,
that
root to
root?
stem. Yeah.
Oh,
And from that, I've started to create other dishes from that same ethos, using the whole
yeah.
beetroot, using the whole celeriac, using the
Mhm.
whole butternut squash. And it's exciting. It's taking my sort of viewpoint to restaurants in a different way now.
Definitely. So yeah, when you're constrained like that, like I said, the creativity just goes on to
Yeah,
another level.
and it has to, because otherwise you do get stuck in the same routine of let's take that outer leaf, throw it away, just because it's
Yeah,
lazy. It's lazy.
true.
And then waste it'll be challenged because then it won't become waste. It'll just
Mhm.
be using the whole product.
Definitely. Thank you. And then last question in this section is what drives you?
Drives me. My kids drives me.
Yeah.
Um, Everything from I'm wanting them to have the best upbringing, whether
Mhm.
that's with food, through playing rugby, um, just being the best dad for them, but
Yeah.
showing them, especially as they're the future generation that's going to be eating, producing, cooking, potentially chefing. Um,
Are they into chefing or do they like
yeah, yeah, they absolutely love it. They love food. They're not your sort of archetypical kids that will just sit and eat a cheese and tomato pizza or fish fingers. They'll be my youngest. He's 6. He goes for the spiciest curries he can possibly get.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Lankan curries, fish curries. My eldest, his favourite foods are mussels and
Really?
mussels with yeah. They're different upbringing when you've got a chef as a dad.
That's so funny.
We live so close to the beach as well, so it's We were down there the other day, and Tyler picked up about 8 oysters that we came back and barbecued on the live fire, and showed him how to open an oyster. But then showing them that you can eat everything as well is to bring that sort of next level of. I think schools need to educate.
Definitely.
Definitely need to educate more on food in general. But so showing the next generation how to minimize waste as well.
It should be taught at school. Like, it's such an important life skill.
Definitely cooking
every day, 3 times a day. So
100%. I am a full backer of food and education. It's not good enough what our education system does for food. That starts with the government thing, but that's a conversation for a different day.
Different day, different podcast. But yeah, very true. Thank you. And then the next section is proof is in the pudding. What are your proudest achievements in reducing food waste so far?
So I think we've covered most of that already. We getting the simple broccoli stalks into a bag of Itsu coleslaw.
Yeah.
Slaw mix that went into several different boxes that you can get in the food to go salads in Itsu. Was a massive achievement. I think that Nature's Way made about 3.5 million just on the back of broccoli stalks.
Wow.
Massive money just on a byproduct. And then, obviously we then took the broccoli stalks, we put that into a healthy, what was sort of combinations of healthy slaw into Morrison's, into M&S. That was a yogurt-based coleslaw. So then just going on that waste journey with them. And it opens up the sort of other developers' eyes to a food waste as well.
Definitely. And did you have like a weight to how much that was? Like, how much were you actually throwing away?
I mean,
like
weekly we were doing a ton of broccoli. So probably if you take a broccoli head, the most of the weight is in the stalk. It was probably, I don't know, monthly. A lot of broccoli, a lot of broccoli stems were saved.
Yeah.
But high volumes, massively high volumes, because it started off with just going into the Itso slaw, then it went into coleslaws, then it went into other bag salads. And because we were using the broccoli florets anyway, there was never that worry, because you were always going to have the broccoli stems to use, as opposed to the pineapple core, where you're buying the pineapple for the flesh. And then outweighing the product, because it was such a popular product, the breakfast yogurts in Pratt.
Yeah.
There was the broccoli was the biggest success story. Was huge amounts of tons and tons of broccoli stems were saved from just being thrown into landfill.
That's such an incredible story.
Yeah, and it's just something as simple as a broccoli stem.
Yeah. I love how it can turn into something like the favorite part. Like with my parents, they never used to eat the broccoli stalk, but I told them you can eat it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when I come home now, the broccoli stalk will be gone and the whole purée is still left there.
That's right, still there. Yeah, we've got one in the fridge at the moment. We've got one at the moment. The broccoli is going to get turned into a stir fry, but we took the stems and made coleslaw the other night with it.
Yeah. No, really, really good story. Thank you. And then last few questions. What's the most important tip you give to chefs aiming to reduce waste in their kitchens?
Think about it first.
So
if there is another use for it, whether it's a bit like my dish, burning the leaves down and turning it into an ash and using it as a seasoning, or mixing with salt and creating something like an onion skin salt or a garlic salt, there should never be really wastage when you're prepping meat, because bones can go into stock, the trim can go down into a sausage or a burger. You should always try to minimize it.
Yeah.
So try it out. Believe in yourself and try something out, whether it's turning it into an oil, turning it into a butter, turning it into a ferment.
Yeah.
Play around with it, and then it opens up your creativity, you develop yourself more, and you could find the next chef from Noma. that's got all wackiest things on the plate because they're reducing waste and they've created something new.
Yeah, like you say, you just have to think about it
Yeah.
first. I think automatically people just throw things away.
Yeah.
If you really stop and think about it, who knows, you might be the
I think
next Noma chef with a new creation.
exactly. The biggest thing is slow down and think.
Yeah.
A lot of chefs obviously have to get a lot of prep done before a certain time, and you're just wasting things because everything from potato peelings to cabbage cores, you will just go into autopilot mode, and you have a waste bin next to you, and you're just prepping away and throwing it away.
Yeah.
Next time, what I would suggest is when you're prepping, put the waste into a plastic container next to you, and then look at that waste afterwards and go, right, what could I do with that? Could I turn that into a waste kimchi? Could I turn it into a strawberry leaf oil? There is never a wrong answer with food. There's only a different way of looking at something.
I quite like that. Put it in a
Yeah, and then relook at it another time.
Yeah, take some time and look at it, and then something will come up later.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And then the last question here is, what books, podcasts, apps, or shows would you recommend for chefs looking to grow and be inspired?
So something like this for a start. You're hearing everything out from the chef's mouth.
Yeah.
I'm hugely passionate about food. I wouldn't have been a chef for 25 years, so I'm constantly listening to shows. Watching Chef's Table on Netflix. That's a great program to watch. If you just like the food side of things, things like Better Feed Phil, because that's great to see global food. Great British Menu, again, seeing up and coming chefs, all the best chefs in the country, what they're creating. I love listening to the Off Menu podcast.
Okay.
Because even if it's done as a comedy podcast, there's things that food and restaurants that I've discovered just through listening to that. What's the app? The Grondo app.
Grondo, yeah. And
I love the
that
Grondo
one.
app. It's amazing. And yeah, just general buying cookbooks, seeing what the next thing is out there. And the biggest thing for me is Instagram. Although everyone's a chef on Instagram, but you do discover new things. So there's a guy at the moment who's doing a whole series of topped crisps. Crisps. He's just taking crisps, plain potato chips, different flavors, and topping them with. He did one 2 days ago that were thick cut, ready salted crisps, and topped it with steak and cafe de Paris butter. And it's something that I did in my last development role. We did some work with a big crisp company, and we did a day where they were with us, and I created fish and chips, but it was salt and vinegar crisps that then had bits of barbecued monkfish, tartar sauce, charred lemons, parsley, capers, all on the top of it, and served it in newspaper.
Wow.
And you're just discovering new things on Instagram all the time because people are believing themselves. Like, we go back to that thing of success and trying new things. And some of it is absolutely crazy, like putting lotus biscoff on a burger. But people love it. People love it. And it's a way of creating
everything on there.
You do. You find something. But then as a chef, that's where you become inspired and you go, actually, that flavour profile works. And it's very much, although when you first say it, Biscoff and beef, you go, that's absolutely revolting. Yeah. But the real crux of it, there's no difference to a Mexican mole being served with chicken. There's got chocolate and coffee at the forefront to bring that earthy sweetness.
True.
It's just a different way of looking at something.
Yeah.
So that's what I find exciting is things like Instagram and seeing different chefs coming through and seeing those different takes on things where then you can put that into your own style.
It's super interesting. I spend too much time on Instagram. Easy to do.
It's very easy. You lose hours doing it.
Well, I think, like, people say kind of waste your time, but like you said, I think you can get a lot of inspiration.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff that you can waste your time with on Instagram, but there is a lot of influencing. There's a lot of creativity to be discovered as well.
Really? Thank you. And then I actually realised I missed my favourite question of Pass It On. It is, if you could have one final meal, what would it be?
I get asked this quite a lot. Most chefs do. It's sort of,
Yeah.
I actually at Christmas, my sister got me a death row book.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at what everyone's last meal were before they get put to death. Mine would probably be something classic like salt and pepper squid, followed by a beautiful tomahawk steak
Really?
with some fantastic sides, hispi cabbage,
Yeah.
a really good peppercorn sauce, real good. I like French fries with my steak. I don't like chunky chips. And then everywhere I go, my pudding will always be sticky toffee pudding.
Really? Oh, love.
Something like a milk ice cream or something like that. It's my go-to. And
Perfect.
it comes with the cheese board as well. I'm going to throw in
Another
a fourth course as well.
full course.
Yeah, I'll throw in a cheese board for good measure.
No, that
It's a winner for your last meal.
thank you. And that wraps up all the questions that I had for you. Thank you so much for joining.
No problem at all. Thank you.
And you will find the results live today if you check our LinkedIn. But yeah, I really enjoyed speaking to you, learning about all the roles you've been doing over 25 years.
Yeah, thank you
really
very much.
incredible journey. Yeah, thank you so much.